Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to Synchronicity. I am your host, Nadiya Shah, and this is your moment of synchronicity. I am here with Priya Kale of the wonderful astrology blog, cosmicdiaries.com. She's now doing videos online as well. So I'm really excited to talk to you today. Hi, welcome, Priya.
Hi, Nadia. It's so lovely to talk to you. I've been watching you for years now, and it's nice to finally meet you in person.
That's so nice of you to say thank you. So,
Inspiration.
thank you. So I want to know about you. I want to know about your work. Tell me about Cosmic Diaries, especially when did you start it? Why did you start it? And what type of things have you been writing about lately?
Okay, this might take a minute. Just saying. Little bit about my background. I am a Western astrologer, but I grew up in India. And my grandfather was a Vedic astrologer. I never met him. He'd passed away. So was my great-grandfather. So it was kind of an okay thing in the family. And I was just always interested in astrology since the time I was born. I can't remember a time that I wasn't. But the books weren't in English, so I started studying Western astrology. Got to many years later, I went to art school. I did all of that, but I still studied astrology. And then it was my Saturn return when I started writing for myself. So I've been writing Cosmic Diaries now since 2006. I work with clients, I write horoscopes, I have subscribers, and now I've recently started doing videos on astrology. So you could say it's always been my passion. I never thought it would be a profession, but here I am.
Exactly. So talk about what type of things do you write about? Because it's an astrology blog, but it also has horoscopes as well, right?
Yes. I write sun sign horoscopes. And my blog, I would say, of course, read it. That's the best way, instead of me telling you what it's about. But I like to approach astrology it's a very humanistic thing to me. Because these energies are not happening outside of us. They're happening inside of us. This cosmos that we live in, we are the center of our known universe. And as above, so below, and what's happening above is also happening within. So with my blog, what I try to do is help people find their own, empower people to make their choices and to recognize that you have a choice in how you respond to a situation. You have no choice over what happens in the external, your happiness can never be based on anything in the external because everything in the external changes. Astrology teaches that. So hopefully what I try to do in my blog is show people that, you know what, you have choices. This is happening to you. If you take responsibility, you can respond differently. That happiness has to come from inside. It's finding that inner balance.
And I think responding differently is what leads to happiness.
It is. It's breaking out of our conditioned patterning because at the end of the day, what is a chart? It's just symbols on a piece of paper. But, just the fact that I was born in India and you were you born here? Or someone else? Someone born in America. Let me just, any example. Culturally itself, there's such a difference in the way we are raised. And so when we look at a chart and when I'm working with my client, I'm really trying to peel back those layers again to get you back to the essence of that pure potential that your chart has. Because it's only your mind or the conditioning that our culture gives us that tells us, okay, I can do this, I can't do that.
So I must say one of the questions I'm asked most as a South Asian person is why do I practice Western astrology and not Vedic astrology? So I have my answers, which I've shared in many videos, but what is your answer? Why is that for you?
A couple of things. One was when I was really young, again, I grew up, my mother loved astrology and she still does. And so we'd have, in India, it's so common. So we'd have these Vedic astrologers come over and they'd tell us things and tell me things. And my response, I remember being really young and my response was like, wait a minute. How do you know that? You're telling me that 35, this is going to happen, 60, that's going to happen, 70, that's going to happen. How do you know that? And if you know that, why can't I know that? And I also, even at that age, got that, no, that's wrong. You can't make a prediction like that. That just didn't click. And I'm not saying that astrology can't be used to predict, but that's not the ultimate goal, at least for me, right? So anyway, that was the one thing about Vedic, it was very predictive. Of course, now I understand it very differently, so I'm not making that judgment. But Western, the books were in English. They were easier to understand because there was not that much literature in Vedic astrology. So, and I spoke English. I mean, I'm Indian, but it's my first language. So Western. That's how.
The information was accessible to you.
Yeah.
Well, I do also think that, it's very interesting because I've been asked about this as well. I think that Western astrology is a lot more, just as you said, why you like astrology, because it's about empowering people and helping them make different choices. And it arises from a different worldview, a different way of interacting with your world. And I think part of the reason that Western astrology has become more and more popular in South Asia is because of the rise of the middle class. And to be middle class means that you believe you can work on your own behalf, that you have control over your fate. And so, of course, the astrological interpretations and techniques and understandings are going to evolve as a result.
I 100% agree. And I think that's the big part about Western astrology that I love, that it empowers you. It empowers you to make choices. And I have to say, I mean, I don't know enough about Vedic. I'm going back to study Vedic astrology. You know, it's a lifelong thing. It's never going to be over.
Exactly. One lifetime is not enough. I tell my students, I tell people all the time, one lifetime is not enough. Somebody yesterday said, Matthew Curry, when I was interviewing him, he said, I need 3 lifetimes to study Vedic astrology. And I thought, you might not even get all of it then.
Even then, seriously. So I love that the Western astrology allows us to empower people. But what I also do with my work, and I guess it's inseparable because I am Indian, you know. So my roots are Eastern in many ways. So hopefully I try to bring a bit of both, because it's not fate, destiny. Okay, I'm going to get into it, right? Should I get into it?
Do it.
Do it. And of course, this is just the way I see it. I'm not saying this is the way it is. But what I've experienced is fate and free will itself are an illusion. Even both of that is an illusion. It's just really oneness. And even that is that duality of the mind saying, oh, this is fate and this is free will. It's just a matter of awareness. And what you're doing is you're part of this one cosmic being, and nothing is separate from each other. Like, yeah, there's air between you and me, but there's still waves, and there's still, this is the illusion of separation because you have form. And maybe I'm going off on a tangent.
Do it. This is a good place to go off on tangents. Don't you worry.
But we're divine formlessness in form, you know, and we're just trying to recognize that. So fate and free will, especially during the time of eclipses, we know that things seem to be very fated. But what is that? The sun and moon are coming close to the nodes. Now, maybe I'm getting a little into astrology.
No, that's good, because a lot of students of astrology watch this. So that's good. Yeah, please do.
Okay. I mean, the sun and the moon get near the nodes, and the nodes are what? Rahu and Ketu, as they say in Vedic astrology. But in my experience, or what I believe, is they're like the entry and the exit point out of this karmic wheel. Really. Because what are the planets doing? They're going round and round and round and round in circles. And the more we look at the external, we're just like at this dizzy point, because everything is just going round. That's where that centering comes in. So eclipses, it's like we're aligned with this way of getting out of this chakra view of fate and free will, and step out of it for a minute and recognize, oh, it's the universe, it's all happening for me anyway. So I don't have to fight it. It becomes more effortless. Am I even making sense?
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. That is so eloquent and such an elevated way of understanding the nodes and eclipses. So I'm hoping you could talk about that a little bit more as well. So with, like, for example, a client comes to you and they're going through, let's say, a nodal return, for example. Right. Okay. So talk a little bit about that. How would you counsel them? What type of things are you looking for when you are looking at the nodes, and how to actually utilize them to help your client?
Well, nodal, I consider the nodes, you look at the sun, moon, ascendant, of course, but then the nodes are probably one of the first things I look into the chart, because your viewers probably know this, but for those who don't, the north node generally is the place you're evolving towards, and the south node will be all your latent talents, gifts, what you bring into this life, right? So yes, I'll look at the North Node. I'll look at the ruler. First of all, what house the nodes are in. Because if the North Node is, okay, for example, I have my North Node in my 11th. I know I'm putting the information out there, whatever. But, so for me, I also have Pluto in my 11th. So, giving you my personal example, friends and communities and groups, it's a challenge for me, but it's like I have to face it. Pluto is there, so I don't want to go. But at the same time, I know I have to go because my North Node is there. So with the client, you see where that North Node is, you look at where the house is, and that's essentially the path you're heading towards. And that's probably the most challenging part of your life as well, because it's kind of just out of reach. So you use the South Node as a step stool it's like snakes and ladders. And that's where the game comes from, by the way, in India. It was discovered in India, and it had to do with the nodes.
Wow, that's so...
I forget the exact story, but I came across this information a few years ago, and I was like, oh. So snakes and ladders, it is a karmic thing. So, and what are the nodes? They're about karma. So you go up with the North Node, but then if you're attached too much to the South and the past and your comforts, the snake will bring you down again. And isn't Rahu Ketu the snake? So, sorry,
No, don't ever apologize for sharing who you are and shining your light. I just really like that. And my hope always with this show is that people get to do that. And so I love it. And I love the elevated place that you're taking the conversation.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but let me just finish answering your question. So yes, where the node is, ruler of the node, and definitely look at your nodal returns. Look at what happened. One nodal cycle is 18 years. Since you were saying, what do you do with the client? Look at your nodal returns. You'll see that coming full circle. Like your life cycles, I suppose. So, okay.
So how do you see in terms of your role as astrologer? Like you are actually facilitating in some way this person's evolution. Like how do you see your role as astrologer in that?
I think at best I can be a mirror. An undistorted mirror, which means I have to clear my projections as well. But at best, I feel like I can be a mirror and just reflect to them their choices. Because, yes, a client is coming to me with their life as it is right now. So, of course, in a reading, I would first ask them what they want to focus on is how I begin my readings. Of course, I'll get into what I see and they might want something, and I'm seeing something else coming up, and I have to tell them, and I will. But it gives me an idea of where their head is at. And so, yeah, my role as an astrologer is to really be very honest and compassionate, but honest. And sometimes deliver the hard truth, which is, have you seen your behavior? You're being self-destructive. Sometimes you have to say that because the person sometimes doesn't see it. It's not a conscious thing. No one wants to do things that are self-destructive, but we're all doing it unconsciously. Because, okay,
I completely understand because this is very Freud. Like Freud, in the beginning of his career, he said everything we do is because of creation, the libido energy. But then towards the later part of his career, he said it's not just the creation energy, it's also the self-destruction energy. So he identified like two energies within us that we're constantly sort of navigating and utilizing as part of our process, our psyche process.
And change is the only constant in the universe. What is that? Scorpio. But Scorpio, if not used consciously, becomes destructive. It's all there in our astrology. The symbolism is so beautiful, right? And then, okay, as a role, Jyotish is a beautiful word actually for astrologer, which is a light bearer. And what is light but consciousness? And what are we doing with astrology? It's divination. We're trying to see into the unseen, so into the dark. So we're peering into the unconscious. But again, coming back to instead of peering out into the vast unconscious out there, if we go inside, that's where that magic is. Instead of trying to grope in the dark outside, if you just close your eyes and go dark inside, you'll find the same thing.
So how does all this spiritual understanding and desire to elevate the conversation, the evolution of other people, how do you translate that into horoscope writing?
Oh, Okay, that might take me a minute. I'm thinking about my answer. Well, I try, which is I'll look at, writing a horoscope. I will look at what's going on in the chart, obviously. But my job as an astrologer is not to tell you, oh no, there's a ditch, you're going to fall down. No. My job is to tell you, there's a ditch, but this is how you can navigate it. Because I'm seeing ways that you can't see. Or I can say that, you know what, you're going to have to wade through knee-deep water. But relax, it's just knee-deep water. And you can get through it. And maybe you could have these other things to navigate. So in my horoscope writing, I hope that I'm inspiring. I hope I'm not scary. And I mean, that's for my readers to say. But I think I'm pretty practical. I'm a Taurus. So you're going to get the bottom line. But I'll do it sweetly. But it doesn't have to be scary. Life is not scary. It's not. Astrology is not scary. Life is happening.
It's happening, and it can happen depending on your own perspective. It can be an adventure. It can be fun. It can be loving. It can be whatever it is that I believe, whatever it is that you decide it to be. Now, might not feel like that when you're having like a Pluto transit, right? If you've got Pluto, I've had Pluto conjunct a lot of planets in my chart. So I know it doesn't feel that way when you're in that moment. It doesn't feel that way. But having said that, I do think that that has reinforced my belief that the universe is wise and loving because of having lived through that and everything I learned from that, even though it was really, really hard in the time of it.
It's so true. So Saturn's in Scorpio, and now it's going to go over my ascendant soon. I have late Scorpio ascendant. But I also have Mercury and Moon and Sun, all of this in Taurus. And so it was opposing my, Mercury, Moon over the past 2 years. And I actually have Uranus in a Scorpio as well. But it was all writing. My head felt so heavy, Nadiya. I couldn't write. It felt like pulling teeth. It felt like banging my head against a wall. Where normally I can just sit down and it'll just flow. But that Saturn on the Mercury it felt like a wall. And it was hard. It was hard. Like one paragraph would take me so long to do. But I also, again, learning. It's about discipline because I think 2 years prior to that, for 6 years, I'd been writing every day nonstop, doing clients, this, and I burnt myself out. And Saturn's like, slow down. You've got to slow down. And it forces you. It did not feel good. But here we are. Thank you, Saturn.
Well, I'm really glad you're here. Yes, thank you, Saturn. Yes, Saturn, you rock. I do think so as well because I always say Saturn is self-respect. That's what I see. Saturn is honoring the incarnation because, yes, I love what you said earlier that we're formlessness in form, but we are form. And to me, Saturn is saying, you know what? We're in form for a reason, and I'm going to honor this incarnation instead of trying to escape it.
It's about mastery. It's about mastery in that form because Saturn is that limit of the physical world, right? So why are we here in the physical world as souls? We're here to master physical reality or this physical plane. As souls, we're free, right? So yes, Saturn's all about mastery, and that's where you're growing and you're evolving. And when you start to... Saturn always gives rewards. Saturn is hard, but Saturn always gives rewards. And that's a fact, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can honestly say Saturn has blessed my life in many ways. It hasn't always felt easy getting there. It really hasn't. But Saturn has been good to me. Thank you, Saturn, for being good to me.
Seriously, thank you, Saturn. But so Saturn, yes, it's been a lot of lessons. And look, today was my first. I was speaking at the Open Forum in SOTA. And this is very Saturn, right? For the viewers to know. It's like the next step in my work. So I'm happy to be here and talking to you. And
well, I'm very grateful to be part of that, part of Saturn doing its magic in your life. And I thank you so much for being here. I know that before we go, I do want to mention you've just started putting out some videos. And I think that like just watching you talk right now, there's just so much light and so much magic. And I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be watching you for a very long time to come. So congratulations on that as well.
Thank you. I'm very camera shy, so this is something that's new for me. But hopefully, you know what? It comes down to this. I have realized, and the reason I do astrology, and maybe I'm going to sum it up now, is I have a message. And it's not even that I want to do this, but when it has helped me so much in my life, and I've been through a lot. Well, okay, let me not say that. I have a great family, great child, all of that's fine. But we all have our stuff. We all go through stuff. That's the whole point, you know? And it has helped me. It saved me from situations where it could have been really bleak. I mean, just internal depression and stuff. So I've learned to work with it, and it's such a valuable tool that I would want nothing more to just share it with the world.
And I think one of the great things about it, like you talked about, I've also had my hard times as well. And one of the great things about it is I think it reminds us that everything changes, even the stuff that sucks. But then when the stuff that's good comes around, enjoy it. Yeah, because that's going to change and evolve as well. Yeah, but we can be made better. Like, that's one thing I also really love about astrology is that we can appreciate in a symbolic way how we are being made better. There's a quote by LL Cool J where he says, "Pressure creates diamonds."
It's true, though. That's exactly it. And astrology, really, it's not about, yes, we can predict the future and all of that, but it's about the now. That's what we do with a chart. We cast a chart for this moment in time because this moment in time is all that exists. And it's one dynamic moment that bleeds into the next, into the next, into the next. There is no future. There is no past. And it's about cherishing this moment. And if there's sadness, of course there'll be sadness. This is life. There's all emotions. But we can't, the more you suppress the sadness, we try to be happy all the time. This is important. I'm going to say this. Where people, from the time we're kids, we're taught to, the kid cries and no, you want the kid to stop crying. But still, children will cry it out and then they're happy again. But as we grow older, we suppress those painful emotions slowly, slowly, slowly. And over years, they build up where then the slightest trigger and those emotions come up again. And that's what's happening right now with this Grand Cross. Everyone's been triggered. Those emotions are coming up and these have been buried for years because they were too painful to deal with. And we've not been taught how to deal with that, you know? So anyway, I would say astrology really brings us to the moment. Everything changes. This too shall pass. Enjoy it. You know, if you're sad, whatever, this too shall pass.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Priya, for being here. Thank you,
everyone, for having me. Thank you, Nadiya. Sorry, I interrupted you again.
No, you were perfect, and you're just doing so well, and you definitely do have a message. I do think all of us have our own unique message and our own unique vehicle to share that message. And so I think it's always inspiring. Like, it's very, very clear that you are living your message.
Thank you. I mean, I hope so. That's all I can hope for, you know. Thanks.
And thank you so much for being here to celebrate Priya Kale from CosmicDiaries.com with me. Until we connect again, take care.